The bandsaw box turned out really well, and so my mind went to my next project, which I believe I'm going to start working on Christmas gifts this year. And the Christmas gifts I'm looking to make, I needed a few extra different variations of wood, you know, bright colors or contrasting colors. And so while I was at Woodcraft picking some of those out, my wife found one of these inline ceramic vegetable peeler turning kits. So I'm going to get out my lathe and I'm going to take the blank that she chose. I'm going to see if we can't get this turned down on the lathe and put on the vegetable peeler. So this particular turning kit requires that we get a 1/2 inch hole, which is the same diameter as this shaft here, and that's going to be drilled 7/8 of an inch into the end of our pen blank. They ask for a 3/4 by 3/4 by 5 inches. We're going to have to mount this in the jaws because we need to put that mounting hole in there for the actual peeler. Okay, to drill your hole in the end of your blank, you can either use a drill press, which I do have, or I'm just going to use my lathe. I can pop out my live end. I have a chuck. It just has a friction fit on this side. There we go. Move that back. I've got my 1/4 inch bit here. Might have said before that it was 1/2 inch, it's only 1/4 inch. Get my bit lined up in my chuck properly. Make sure it's nice and tight. Now I just want to move this up and make sure it comes close to the center. Okay, with my lathe set at a lower speed, I'm going to put it up to about 400 or 500 RPM. There we go, that's 500. Then I'm just going to slowly introduce the bit. There we go. Acrylic is very brittle. You want to make sure that you're not going too fast for it. And also, I'm going to mark how deep I want to go. I only need that deep. I'm going to go just a tad bit further to make sure that we can get in there, but I'm talking a very small amount. And I'll go ahead and wrap some tape around here. That looks about right. So we're only going to make a hole 7/8 of an inch deep. Now make sure you back out occasionally, clear your drill bit. Especially this acrylic will get melted and it'll attach itself to the bit. It has to be pulled off. Otherwise you run the risk of getting a lot of heat buildup in your blank. You could melt it or crack it. Again, you just want to do this slowly. There we go. You go in once more just to make sure we got that cleared out. Yeah, that's good. So that's it. That's all we need to get the turning kit installed. Now we can start looking at actually rounding over and shaping our handle. So I want to bring up my live end. Let me get my tool rest up here. Try to get lined up. Now, especially for acrylic, I like to use these carbide tools. These things tend to do better at hitting the acrylic and not destroying it. I still might crack this. I still might need to get another one. it's a risk you got to take with acrylic. The wood, these work okay with the wood. I tend to like to use the more old-fashioned gouges. They're a lot more of a pain and a lot more expensive as a startup tool. So these are really good to rough in and get your shapes set into your acrylic. So let's go ahead and start this up. I'm going to start out at about 1800 RPM and just slowly introduce my tool. There we go. So if I stop it and slow it down, you'll see we do still have some flat spots there. And over here, we still have a lot more corners. So let's keep going until we have a cylinder. So there we had a bit of a blowout. Sometimes that's unpreventable because the blank could have been made with defects. So this is very chipped out right here, and I'm hoping that as we turn this down we can get rid of that chipping. And so when I get to the end here, I'm going to have to start being a lot more careful when I come across there and do lighter passes. Ooh, there's a big piece missing right there. So that was a catch, but we're going to persevere and see what we can get. Okay, let's see. Still got that big gash right there and a few more there. This just seems to be crumbling at the end. So I'm hoping that a sharper blade will help. So I went ahead and loosened my carbide tip, rotated it about 90 degrees, and I gave it a newer, slightly sharper edge. So hopefully that won't catch and we won't get the blowout that we're getting right now. Okay, I kind of got a generic shape here that I like. Make sure I don't have any big sections coming out. I still have a small flat spot there. I'll fix that before I go on. Okay, yeah, let's fix that now. There we go. So that's fixed now too. And we can go on to the next step, which is going to be sanding. Now I'm going to go ahead and sand this. Now I don't have any super tight areas, which is nice. So I'm just going to move this along as it's going, just to easily sand it. So we're going to start with 150 and work our way through. Now with the 150 grate, you're just trying to get the surfaces even. You can see right there, there's a shiny ring. That means that that surface is lower than the surrounding area. So we're going to have to sand that until that's all a uniform white. I don't know how well this is going to show on camera. But see, we no longer have a shiny ring there. So we can see a shiny ring here and here where the surfaces are slightly lower, but the ring up here that we just had, it's completely gone. You want to keep moving your sandpaper back and forth. That won't prevent sanding lines, but it'll get rid of a lot more of them. Okay, now that we've got that done, I'm going to take my sandpaper and I'm going to go the other direction. This is going to help to remove all the sanding marks on the next layer. It's best to do this until you no longer see any scratches going around the outer surface. You're just going to want to see the left to right scratches that you're adding right now. I have some pretty deep ones that I'm working on here. The longer you spend on this step, the nicer your vegetable peeler or pen or shaver or whatever you're making is going to turn out. This is going to take a lot longer at these lower grit numbers like 150. This should go a little faster once we get up closer to the 600 that we're going to with the regular sandpaper. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. It's a good idea to clean it up between coats. So being acrylic, you could just use plain water. I'm just going to take some water, let it spin. We're at about 380 RPM. You can see that's going to be real nice when it comes out. When this gets dry, you'll see it starts getting grayed out and scratchy again. That's okay. This is a process we're going to have to go through. So we've basically got all of the previous sawdust off of there. I'm going to go to the next grit of sandpaper, which is 240. Yeah, so right now we're at about 380 RPM. I might pop it up as far as 500. So now what you're basically trying to do is get rid of all the linear scratches, the lateral scratches that you put on with the last grit. And as soon as those are done, you can move on to the next grit. Don't ever wrap this around your fingers. If it would get caught in here, then it's going to take your finger right with it. I just hold it with my two hands, try to give it some even pressure. If at any time that pulls, it's going to pull right out of my grip, no problem. Okay, most of my scratches are radial, but I'm seeing some lateral scratches there, so we're going to have to go a little further. I really want to get the top end here. For some reason, that's being very difficult. I'm going to increase the speed a little bit too. Okay, we're closer to 500 RPM now. Okay, I'm happy with that. Now let me go ahead and do the sanding this direction. Okay, so every time we do that, it's going to be nicer. So we're going to go up to 320 is the next grit. And rinse, wash, repeat. Okay, this is the last grit that I'm going to use for the regular sandpaper. So I have a few options right now. This is the plastic polish that I like to use. It's just hot crystal coat. So I'll show you how to apply that here. We're going to get going here, turn it on really low speed. I'm just going to get a little bit on our rag here. And just let that kind of apply itself. Just like that. Okay. Now we're going to pump up that speed. We're going to apply moderate pressure while it goes here. And we're going to see a shine start to develop. Ooh, wow, that looks really good. I'm pretty happy with that, honestly. It's got a little streaking maybe. Okay, now let's see what it would look like if we use the micro mesh. These are the micro mesh sanding pads. So each one, so we start at 1500, we go clear up to 12,000. They're going to polish this. It'll look just like glass. I'm going to take the first pad here, this brown pad. which is a 1500. I'm going to get it wet. So we're going to go ahead and start sanding. We're going to reduce the speed again down to 500. Now this is probably going overboard on something that's probably going to get thrown around in a silverware drawer, gouged, scratched, but we're just going to see how this works. Now this is the same thing as the other sanding was. We're just going to go left and right, keeping that sandpaper moving. You can see some of the stuff coming off of the sanding pad. I'm just going to use the water to get that off. It doesn't take a huge amount of time to do the wet sanding, but I do like to take my time. We're going to do the same thing we did with the other sanding. We're going to stop it, sand left to right to get the majority of those scratches out. The scratches are so small at this point. A lot of people that do pen turning and stuff don't do this step with the micro meshes. I'm going to do it today just because I've got the time, and I'm doing this for a YouTube video anyway. Alright, we're going to move on to the next one now, which is 1800. These micro mesh pads can be expensive, but they do last for quite a while. You can see all of that coming off of there. That's going to make our surface really smooth and shiny. Here we go. This one is 2400. Next is 3200. Moving up to 3600. $4,000. Up to 6,000. Now in between each grit, I'm trying to remove as much of what's on the blank as possible. I don't want this liquid or this water in here because that's got grit trapped in there as well. Here's the 6,000. At this level, it doesn't really take much from each grit. Next is 8,000. Now we'll use our 12,000 on here. There we go. There's our finished handle. Let's do one more wipe down here. That looks beautiful. So that is very nice. I'm glad that we did do the wet sanding. That turned out way better than the plastic polish. So last thing we have to do on the lathe is part it off right here. I'm going to go and take this over to the bandsaw, and we're going to part off this section over there. Okay, we've got our bandsaw set up here. I'm just going to hold this side and this side and very carefully take off the end here. Make this easier to sand, I'm going to try wrapping this in a few layers of towel to prevent it from getting super marked up. And I'm going to try shoving that in my chuck. And now I don't want to be too hard on this. Well, I think it's going to work. Okay. We're going to give that a try. Okay, we're just going to go through the same sandpapers that we did previously. time to bring back our micro abrasives. So again, we're going to start with the brown, make our way across to the purple. 1500 up to 12,000. Starting with 1500. $1,800, $3,200, $3,600, $4,000, $6,000, $8,000, and the last micro abrasive is $12,000. Oh, I couldn't be happier with how that turned out. I'm glad I thought to try to do the sanding on here like this. That turned out probably way better than I could have done with my hand or holding the random orbit sander. So now it's time to pull them off. Get my chuck key. There we go. And yeah, that still looks really nice. I'm incredibly happy with that. That turned out brilliant. Time to put it together, actually. I'm going to take this medium CA glue. I'm just going to put a couple drops on the inside here. Boy, they don't give you a lot of leeway here. It is going, but very slowly. Did not expect to have to use a mallet. But I got it in there. So I would suggest, if you do one of these, test fit your piece. And if you need to, you might end up having to drill your hole just a tad bit bigger. Oh, and there you have it. Pretty easy to make one, honestly. Little vegetable peeler, cute little handle. I would have rather the handle turned out a different shape. However, since I kept getting blowout up here, it kind of decided its own shape. But I don't think that's going to hurt anything. I think that's a pretty handle. I think the wife's going to be really happy with it. And it looks like a pretty good quality head on there too. Thanks for coming along. Thanks for watching me make something else and try to teach you how to do it. You should definitely go try to find something like this. You can get these kits on Amazon. You can get them at Woodcraft. I got mine at Woodcraft. And they're not hard to do. The directions didn't tell me exactly how to do some of the things. I had to kind of make up a few things as I went. In fact, the directions are nearly non-existent with these. You could find some good tips online. You can watch this video, but you can definitely make one of these. And if you do make one, I'd love to see it. Post it down in the comments, share a picture with us, and tell me what you think of this video. Do you want to see more videos of making things like this? Alright, thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.